Bueno, pues bienvenidos a todos. Les quiero presentar a Rabbi Dweck para los que no lo conocen. Bueno, Rabbi Dweck es el rabino principal de la Sephardic and Portuguese Community de Londres. Él estudió en la Universidad de Jerusalén, en la Yeshiva de Hazon Ovadia en Jerusalén, bajo la tutela de Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. Asimismo, también recibió su semijá de rabino de Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. Estudió psicología y filosofía en la Universidad de Santa Mónica. También sirvió como rabino de la comunidad Share Shalom, una comunidad siria en Nueva York por aproximadamente 15 años. Y surgió como la cabeza principal de la yeshiva de Barcay, también en Brooklyn, por 4 años. Bueno, es un gran rabino y un gran pensador y estamos muy emocionados de tenerlo aquí con nosotros. Y pues les pido a todos a ver si pueden prender sus cámaras para que se sienta un poco más amena la clase. El Rab va a dar su clase y al final vamos a dejar 10 minutos para que puedan hacer preguntas. Bienvenidos a todos.
Bueno.
So whenever you want to start, we're ready.
I'm ready. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. And I wanted to tell everyone, first of all, it's a tremendous honor for me. The honor is mine to be able to be invited and to be able to speak to everybody for Ibn Sfarad. I was very grateful and honored to be at kind of the opening dinner of Ibn Sfarad when I was in Mexico City. And I'm so glad I've been following, and I'm so happy to see, what's been happening and the classes and the learning. And really, I want to say a huge Hazaku Baruch to everybody on all of the work that you've been doing for it. And I'm very grateful to be invited to share some ideas in Torah with you in these classes. So when I was speaking about what we might do, I thought that we were talking about possibly speaking about Tefilah. So we're going to speak about Tefilah. And tonight, well, for me it's tonight, for you it's not night yet, but we're going to open with this shiur, or this class, on what is the concept of Tefilah, and at least in terms of how it is that we understand it from our Hachamim. And I think that if we're able to do that, so I'll do like you said, I'll speak for about 40 minutes, and then I'll open for about 10 minutes for questions. But it's important here, for our purposes now, we're going to look at the sources as to what essentially Tefilah is and how it is that we understand it. And I hope that it will for you be able to at least begin to have a shape, right? To have a sense of really what it is that we're doing with Tefilah and what is the point of Tefilah. Because many people ask questions, does HaKadosh Baruch Hu need our Tefillot? Does he hear our Tefillot? Doesn't he already know what it is that we want? Why do we do this? And so I hope that we'll be able to kind of open that up a little bit, right? To be able to have a better understanding of that a little bit with this shiur. And then I think in the following shiurim, I'm going to leave you a bit on a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger means you're going to have a to be continued, right? We're going to ask a question at the end, which is very important, that hopefully we'll be able to address in the next shiur. So I'm going to open saying this, right? Tefilah itself, according to the Hachamim, is a mitzvah from the Torah. But it's not an explicit mitzvah, meaning it's not clear from the Torah. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, pray. It doesn't say that, right? The Hachamim understand the concept from one of the Pesukim in the Torah. We're going to look at that Pasuk in just a minute. And they recognize it as something that the Torah essentially is commanding us to do. So we're going to look at that aspect of it, but then we have to understand when we say Tefilah, what do we mean? Right. So the first thing that I'll express to you is the question of the word itself. What is the word? Yeah. So the word Tefilah comes from a root, right? In Hebrew, there are 3-letter roots. And the root of the word Tefilah is Pe Lamed Lamed. Palal. So like Vatit Palel Hana. Yeah. That is the root of the word. The reason why we don't say Tefilah is because it sounds funny and it's difficult to pronounce, so we drop one of the lameds and we put a dagesh, we put a dot in the other lamed that's left to show that it's supposed to be two lameds, but we're only using one. So the way that we pronounce it is Tefilah, with a strong emphasis on the lamed to kind of show that there's supposed to be two there, but there's not two. Halal is used in the Torah in this place. I'll bring up the pasuk for you, and then I will and I'll share the screen to show you. It's a good thing to being able to have it online. I can just pull it up, even though I didn't put this on the source sheet, but I'll show it to you now. Okay, so let me share the screen. Yeah. So you see over here, Yaakov Abinu, he hasn't seen Yosef for 22 years, and he sees Yosef again, finally at the end of his life, and he says to him, Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef. Israel, of course, is Yaakov Abinu. He says to Yosef, Re'o fanecha lo filalti, which means that I never contemplated, I never imagined, I never thought about, I never meditated on what it would be like to see your face again. Why didn't he think about it? Because he thought Yosef was dead. So the way that he expresses it, he says, Re'o fanecha lo filalti. Lo filalti means I didn't think on it. I didn't recognize it. So the root palal is to think, is to meditate, right? Is to have a mind aware. And that's what Yaakov Abinu was saying to Yosef. And that's why, for example, when we talk about tefillin, right? What are tefillin? Tefillin is plural. It's meaning it's talking about many. One tefilah, two tefillim. Yeah. So if I just talking about, for example, the tefilah shel rosh, the tefilah that I wear on my head, I say tefilah shel rosh, not tefillin shel rosh. The proper way to say it is tefilah shel rosh. Why? Because it is the thing that I wear on my head to focus my thought. That's what a tefilah is. And I wear the tefillin on my arm to focus my heart in its thought, right? In its thinking. So tefilah shel rosh, tefilah shel yad. Both tefillim. What are tefillim? They're there for the pililah. And pililah essentially means the mind, the thought, the mindset. Now, this is very important. Why is this very important? Because there's something that Harambam teaches us, right? I know that in Ibn Sefarad, you hear and pay attention a lot to Harambam, which is a good thing to do, right? But Harambam teaches us something very important. He says in the Moreh Nebuchim that the only way for us to be able to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, to be able to connect through a gap with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'll explain that, is with our mind. Why is that? The reason for that is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is nothing like him, there's nothing about him that resembles human beings, right? In other words, everything that we're supposed to think about with regards to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is difficult, is not what it is that we are. So we say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Ehad, right? He's one. One means there's no parts to him. There's no pieces of him. There's no bits to him, right? He's pure and one and nothing, no two. We are made up of a tremendous amount of parts, right? We have eyes and hair and cells and molecules and all kinds of, we're not one. We put things together in order to be able to make one person, but that's a borrowed one. It's not a real one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu also doesn't have any body of any kind. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is eternal, lives, there's no time. He's outside of time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in every single way, is not like us. So there is a gap, right? There is a separation just qualitatively. Qualitatively means the quality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning the manner in which the existence that he is, and the manner of existence that we are completely and utterly separate. There is only one thing that in a certain way connects the two, and that is our consciousness. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is conscious and aware. We are conscious and aware in a way that no other animal or entity in the entire world is conscious and aware. In what way? We are aware that we are aware. right? In other words, we think about what we think about. You with me? Yeah, I have you. Yeah, which is absolutely unique. No other animal does that. No other animal has the ability to be able to consider what they're thinking. So many times, I'm sure we've all had the experience where we're thinking something, and then we think about, why am I thinking about this? And then we think about what we're thinking about to examine how we're thinking. And that's uniquely human. And what that gives us an ability to do is also to be able to consider alternative realities. In other words, every other animal on the planet has what it is that the animal is conscious of in front of it right now. It doesn't have the ability to be able to sit and think, well, let me think, in a year's time, I want to be able to move, 20 kilometers away, and I want to build a nest over there, maybe a bird's thing. No animal thinks like that. Sometimes we might think they think like that because they're programmed to prepare, right? So bears hibernate for the winter and birds build nests for their young and so on and so forth. But it's because it's programmed in their brain that this is what it is that they're supposed to do. It's not that they're sitting and thinking, I'm about to have some babies and I'm going to hatch some eggs. Where am I going to put them? I better make a nest. It's not like they go to school to figure out how to make a nest. It's all downloaded in the brain. But we have that unique ability to be able to consider realities that are not right now in front of us. So we can consider and say, listen, every year it gets very cold. And we are not equipped with being able to be in the cold. What can we do in order to be able to shield ourselves from the cold? That's how we think. And we get better and innovative, and then another person has a better idea, and another person has a different idea. That's how we think. That is unique to us in our consciousness. And that, if anything, is what we share with HaKadosh Baruch. So Harambam says that the only way that we have connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the aspect of ourselves that we in some way share. And that is consciousness. So for example, the Hachamim say, and you might have heard this before, it's a very famous line. The Hachamim say, Hakol bidei shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven, right? Essentially saying Kadosh Baruch Hu is controlling everything, he has everything. Chutz mir'at shamayim. Except for the reverence, the fear of heaven. And where does that fear, where does the yir'ah live? Where does it occur? Here, in us, in our mind, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not control our experience of him, our feeling about him, our thinking about him. He can influence us, but he doesn't control. So it's completely free, as he is completely free. And because of that, there's another thing that we share in terms of our consciousness, and that is that he can create and we can create. And the reason that we can create is because we have this brain that is able to consider realities that are not here now. Right? I mean, what does creating mean? It means that I'm able to imagine something that is not real and go through steps to make it real and bring it into the world. Nothing else, nobody else is able to do that. So when we say that somebody's creative, we mean that they have the ability to consider new realities that are not existing in the world, and they bring those things to be. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's what he does. And that's why we have Shabbat. It's one of the reasons why the Torah says to us that we have Shabbat. Shabbat is why? Because that Shabbat is supposed to be Ot hi beni uben bnei Yisrael le'olam, right? It's a sign between me and Bnei Israel always. Why? Because I created the world 6 days and on the seventh. And what do? As it says in the Torah, Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha ubayom hashivri tishbot. Tells us to do the same thing. He says for 6 days, do melacha. It doesn't say do avodah. It doesn't say do work. Melacha is very special. Right? What is melacha? Melacha, as it says in the Lecha Dodi, right? You know the Lecha Dodi. We say it every Shabbat. We say sof ma'aseh. How does it go? Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila. What does it mean, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila? That's what a melacha is, defining a melacha. Rabbi Shlomo El-Kabetz wrote the Mizmor. He was Chacham. He wrote that line. Why? Because a melacha is very special. It's not just doing work. It's creative work. A melacha is sof ma'aseh b'machshava tefilah, meaning I think about what it is that I want to achieve first, and then I go through steps in order to be able to make it. That's a melacha. And so that's what we share with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, why am I telling you all of this? It's not a shiur on Shabbat, and it's not a shiur on melacha. It's because when we understand that what we share with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our thought, we understand Harambam's point, because Harambam says to us that the manner in which we connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is otherwise a gap, it's a gap otherwise, is through our thought. And that, my dear friends, is Tefilah. Right? What Tefilah is the focusing of our mind to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we find a place then that we share with him. So what we will find is less important is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what we're thinking. More important is that we reach out and connect with him in a space that we share. That's the point of to share a space with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore to interact and engage with him. So that being an introduction, right? That being said, let's have a look at some of the Mekorot. So the first thing that we will look at is the pasuk that the Achamim learned the mitzvah of Tefilah from, right? It's in Sefer Devarim. It says, "V'haya im shamua tishma'u el mitzvotai asher anochi mesaveh etchem hayom." You know this. This is part of the Kriyat Shema, right? We say it every day. Le'ahavat Adonai Elohechem u'obdo. So it says, if you listen to my mitzvot that I'm commanding you today, to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how do you serve him? B'chol levavchem, b'chol nafshechem. With your whole heart and your whole soul, your whole spirit, your whole breath. Yeah, essentially is what it means. So the Hachamim read this. They say, "Ul'obdo bechol lebamchem." Hey, what is that? That's a very interesting thing because it's talking about a service that is the heart. It's heart service. And the Hachamim asked, "Mahi avodah shebalev?" Here, Rashi brings it on this pasuk actually, right? It's Gemara. It's in the Divrei Hachamim. Rashi says, "Ul'obdo bechol lebamchem avodah hi shebalev." In the Gemara, it asks the question, Ezo avodah b'shebalev, right? What's the avodah that exists in the heart? Heve omer zo tefilah, say the Achamim. Achamim say that's tefilah. Why? Because the same way that tefillin shel yad, right? We said tefilah is to be able to guide the focus of the heart. And when we say heart, we mean obviously the elements of thought that we associate with the heart, right? When we say to you, yeah, ¿dónde está su corazón? Where is your heart? We're not saying we know your heart's right here, right? But we're saying, where's the feeling? Where's the focus? Where is your mind oriented? So over here, the Rashi brings this and he says, "Avodah yishabelev zo yit tefilah." Shetefilah kiruya avodah. We know that tefilah is called avodah. Why? Because it's in Sefer Daniel, and Sefer Daniel is Aramaic, right? But the translation of the Aramaic, in which the king says to Daniel, he says, Elahach di'ant falah le b'tedira. He says, the Lord that you constantly serve. Falah here means service, avodah. So it says, Chiyesh pulhan beBabel, ela al shaya mipalel. It says, what kind of service are you doing in Babel? What kind of avodah? There was no korbanot, right? There was no Bet HaMikdash in Babel. So they say the only thing that Daniel could have been doing, by the way, since we're in the Ibn Sefarad, I'm going to show you something that's important. It's a minor thing, right? Daniel, the way to pronounce it is not Daniel, it's Daniel. The tzereh is under the yod, not under the aleph. Right? It's important. So anybody you know is named Daniel, that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. But take a look at the book. So it says there was no avodah, no Bet HaMikdash in Babel. No, what was Daniel doing? He was mitpalel, he was praying. Right? Shnei Emar, how do we know? It says, V'chavin petihane. The pasuk says that he opened his windows. Chavin petihan means the windows. He opened his windows and he focused to Yerushalayim. And he prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look at Yerushalayim. We learned the halachot from that pasuk in Daniel, that you have to have windows in a Bet Knesset, that you're supposed to face Yerushalayim, because that's what Daniel did. So too David says, Tikon tefillati ketoret lefanecha. He asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Tehillim, he says, my tefillah, my thought, my prayer to you should be to you like the incense, like the ketoret. What's a ketoret? Ketoret is avodah, the Beit HaMikdash. So he wanted to compare the tefillah to the avodah. So the Achamim are saying, avodah shebalev, the service of the heart, that's tefillah. And like I said to you, from showing you the roots of the word and the ideas behind it, that's essentially a mental endeavor. It's a mental job. So, okay, so what kind of mental job are we talking about, right? What kind of mental issue are we saying over here? So I want to show you a pasuk from Sefer Bereshit that I think is very beautiful. And I think that it essentially is the source of the concept of Tefilah that the Hachamim are using. So this is at the opening of the second perek in Bereshit, in Parashat Bereshit. And we're told something very interesting. It says, V'chol siyah hasadeh terem yeh ba'aretz, v'chol ayesev hasadeh terem yismach. So it says, all of the kind of the grass of the earth, all of the vegetation, everything that was growing from the earth, what didn't grow yet. And all of the things that kind of were supposed to be produced from the earth had not come. And it gives two reasons for this. It says, one, ki lo himtira Adonai Elohim ala haaretz. It didn't come because God wasn't really bringing rain down onto the land. But then it says, ve'adam ayin. There's also no human. La'avod et ha'adama, to work. Again, there's the avodah, right? To work the land. So now, before I go on, I'm going to acknowledge that this is a very difficult pasuk for many, many, many reasons. But because tonight we're not talking about understanding Parashat Bereshit, I'm going to leave it. You can listen to my shiurim where I deal with this in many different places. I want simply to look at one part of this, right? Because then you say, what do you mean? There was no rain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wasn't making rain. Let's leave that for now. Take the pasuk right now at its surface and recognize that what it's telling us in the Peshat is that the missing element of the earth's response, of the earth's growth, was the Adam. Just as Adam ayin la'avodat Adama, ki Adam ayin la'avodat Adama. So it says nothing was growing, ki Adam ayin. And why was HaKadosh Baruch Hu not mamtir, ki Adam ayin? So for some reason, the human is central over here to what's going on earth. So I want to show you Rashi's explanation on that pasuk, which again, Rashi is taking this from Hachamim, right? This is Divrei Hachamim. He's just taking this from the Midrash, but a very important one. And he says as follows. Rashi says, Umat ha'am lo himtir. He goes, the way to read the pasuk is as follows, right? It says, lo himtir Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't bring any rain. Why did he not bring any rain? Lefi she'adam ayin la'avod et ha'adama. So look how to read the pasuk, right? He's saying, because God didn't bring rain. Why didn't he bring rain? Ve'adam ayin. So Rashi is saying the way to read that is lefi she'adam ayin. And that's a Hachamim. That's one of the glosses of the Hachamim. It's not Rashi, it's the Hachamim. Okay, ve'adam ayin la'avod adama. There was no Adam to work the land. But notice the rest of what Rashi says over here. He says, what is it? What is it about the human being? It says, En makir betovatam shel geshamim, which essentially is an issue of what? Consciousness. In other words, the fundamental nature of the human being that is uniquely human is the consciousness of the human being to recognize that the rain means something to you. And that's what's different, right? I'll point out one small thing to you, right? Notice here that it says, Siyah hasadeh, Ayesev hasadeh. It's not saying that that nothing grew on earth. It's saying things were not growing in the fields. What are fields? Fields are not natural. Fields are designated areas. By whom? Who designates the fields? We do. So in a sense, what it's saying is this whole thing that we relate to, right? That farmers relate to, right? You have a field of who knows what, I don't know, watermelon. And you have a field of all kinds of things that you're planting. That's important to you. What's important to you? That it should rain on your field. Why? Because that's the whole sustenance. But that's entirely tied to a conscious mind that finds meaning in the things that naturally happen in the world. So this pasuk is not just saying there was nothing growing, there was no rain. No, this is centralizing it to the human. And it's saying the human's field was not a thing yet because there was no human. And since there was no human, there was no consciousness on earth. Because think about it, right? What is a human being if not the consciousness of the world? Right? The world wakes up, so to speak, when a human being comes onto it. Before the human being comes onto it, the world is sleeping. There is nothing that knows about itself, knows about the world that it's on, knows about all about the things that it knows about. We do that. So before there's a human being, the universe, as far as we know, right? I mean, there could be other life on out there. Who knows? We're not talking about that this time. Right? Other shurim, perhaps, right? We're not talking about this time. But as far as we know, there is no consciousness in the universe outside of God's consciousness. The minute a human being comes, there is another consciousness, another free, aware consciousness. And the point of this pasuk is saying there was no awareness in the bria, in the creation, that there was something meaningful about rain to us. So that's Rashi's point. He says, "En makir betovatam shel geshamim." There's nobody who recognized how meaningful rain is. Why? Because what is rain if there's not human beings? There's stuff that falls, stuff grows, stuff doesn't grow. There's no rain, things die. Who cares, right? I mean, it doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference to us. And that is Tefilah. In other words, what it is that we're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we tell him, please, can I have some rain in my field, is that we're saying to HaKadosh Hu, we care about your biri'ah that you gave to us. And it would mean so much to me if I could have some rain in my field. Do you understand the difference? Do you understand the value of actually reaching out to talk to the one who made you? To say to that one, this means something to me? It's not a question of does he know or not know. It's a question of what is the nature of the relationship between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Do you talk to him? Does he hear you and respond? So it's the same thing, for example, you could have a woman or a man that you are married to for 50 years. I'm sure you know couples like this, right? They've been married for 50 years or longer. They know what the next one's going to say before they say it. They know what the person likes before they even know themselves what they like, right? That happens. So should that mean that that couple should not do the things that the other one already knows that the person's going to do? No, of course they should. That's part of the nature of engaging in the relationship. It's the action, it's the care, it's the actual speaking and dialogue. That makes a difference. And that's Tefilah. It's not more complicated. That's what it is. Now, how do I get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Like I said, it has to do with focusing the mind, which we will look at. But first, I want to understand what is Tefilah. And this is the source, really, of what it is. Uksheba Adam. But once the human came, veyada Hashem tzorech la'olam, and he realized, he knew we need rain, which is connected to the human being on the planet in the first place. Hitpalel alehem. He prayed for rain. V'yardu, and they came for him. Rain could have been going all over the place, but it rained for him because he prayed for it. Where? Basadeh, in his field. Are you with me? You following, yeah? Okay, let's carry on. So if we understand, right, that the essence of Tefilah is pilila, palal, ro fanecha lo filalti, right? It's the essence of meditation and awareness. It is seated in consciousness, which is uniquely human, and the only thing that we share with God. It is the mode of our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore it's avodah, right? That's service to us, because it's the manner in which we connect. And it is so important. So whether he knows what we're going to say or not, whether he's going to give it to us or not, is not the point of Tefilah. I mean, it is. The giving to it is part of the point. What I mean is that it's whether it's going to happen naturally or not. The point is, what are we doing in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Are we interacting with him? Do we speak to him? It matters to him. That's the essence of Tefilah and why it's so important. So let's have a look at this. Beautiful. I hope that I have this midrash here, but if I don't have it here, I'm going to actually pull it up for you from another page that I have. Yeah. Take a look at it. Take a look at this. Based on what I'm saying to you, look at this beautiful Gemara. So Gemara in Berachot says like this. I'll share it with you. Okay. Forgot that I didn't have the screen on. Gemara in Berachot says like this. Gedola Tefilah. Yoter b'ma'asim tovim. Hachamim say Tefilah is more important and it's more powerful, it's greater than all good deeds. Why? She'en lecha gedol b'ma'asim tovim yoter m'Moshe Rabbeinu. Hachamim say you're going to find somebody who has greater ma'asim tovim than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, yada'ah Hashem panim el panim, his face is shining because of the things that he did. Nobody greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. That. And yet, even so, lo na'ana ela b'tefilah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't answer him in any other way or for any other reason except for his Tefilah. What does it mean answer him? Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go into Eretz Israel, no? Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, you're not going into Eretz Israel. Lo kedashtem oti b'mei mirvat kadesh. You didn't sanctify me, right? Whatever that is also. Not for tonight, but Moshe Rabbeinu was not able to go into Eretz Israel. So Moshe hopes that his ma'asim will merit. What he's done with Bnei Israel will merit. And the Hachamim say none of that helped him. There was only one thing that helped him. And he even didn't let him go into Eretz Israel, but it let him do one thing that he did ask. The only thing that made any difference was his talking to HaKadosh Baruch. Not the bank of his actions, right, of the zechuyot of his actions, but that he spoke to HaKadosh Baruch Hu of what he wanted, which to HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant, Moshe, you care. You care about me and you and your relationship to my mitzvot. You're talking to me. You're taking the ability to be able to actually communicate with me. So it was only in Tefilah. How do we know that? Say the Hachamim said in the pasuk, Al tosef daber elai od badavar hazeh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't talk to me anymore about this. Right? He's talking about his Tefilah. It says, Vayithanan l'Adonai. That's Parashat Vayithanan. Vayithanan l'Adonai b'ayitay lemor. I pleaded with God at that time. Right? He's talking about his Tefilah. And what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu? He says, look, you don't have to talk to me anymore about this. Ale rosh hapisgah. He tells him, go to the top of the mountain. I'm going to show you all of Eretz Israel before you die. I can't let you go in, but because you've asked and you've prayed to me, I'm going to show you the whole thing. And that was his answer. So the Hachamim are saying a beautiful thing over here. They're saying that one of the highest things that we do in terms of our relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Tefilah. Now, based on everything that I've said to you up until now, what can you, if we were to end the shiur here, and I'm going to have to end the shiur very soon, right? And I'm going to open up for questions. But even if we were to end it at this point, one thing that we can come to an awareness and agreement on, based on what's been presented, is that Tefilah is more than just reciting words. Right? In other words, Tefilah is more than just speaking words. We have that. You know what is meant to be speaking of words? Kriyat Shema. Shema Yisrael. That's why it's called Kriyat Shema and not Tefilat Shema. Right? Kriyat Shema is not a Tefilah. We're not talking to Kadosh Baruch Hu with Kriyat Shema. We're not asking him for audience, right? To be able to engage with him. In Kriyat Shema is Kriyat Shema. It's a reading. The mitzvah of Kriyat Shema is read these words every day, twice a day. That's why it's so important. We pronounce it properly. You say the words correctly, and then pause here. And so that's what Kriyat Shema. Kriyat Shema is a Kriyat. It's not a Tefilah. But Tefilah is not a Kriyat. Right? Real prayer is not a recital. It's not just saying words. The essence of all of Tefilah is consciousness and the focus of mind. And that is why the halachot are very, very specific. And I'm going to end just with this because I have to end, like I said, at 10 minutes to 1 o'clock your time. So I'm going to end in 2 minutes, and then I'll open it up for questions. And then next time, we're going to have to look at what the halachot are, right? To be able to understand how the halachot support the nature of Tefilah. But I'm going to just show you one Gemara, and then we'll come back to it afterwards. I'll show you one pasuk from Yeshaya to start with, which is very important, right? Just to show that Tefilah is not a kriyah. It is first and foremost thought and mind and heart, right? So have a look at this. Yeshayahu kaftet. Vayomer Adonai. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Yeshayahu, he says, Yan, ki nigash ha'am hazeh befiu b'svatav kibiduni. He says, Yeshaya, I've had it. He goes, this nation, they come to me befiv ubisfatav. What's piv ubisfatav? With their mouth, with their lips. Like in English, I don't know if you have a term for this in Spanish. Tell me if you have a term for this. In English, we call it lip service. Lip service means you talk a lot. Like in Arabic, we say haki balash. Yeah, you talk a lot, you don't do anything. Yeah, and that's what Yeshaya is. That's what Kadosh Hu is saying to Yeshaya. He says, "Ha'am hazeh befiv ubisfatav kibiduni, kibiduni kabod." Right? They respect me with their mouth. They say the right things. V'libo rihak mimeni, but their hearts, they're very far away from me. V'tehi yaratam uti mitzvat anashim minumada, it should be. You know why they fear me? You know why they have the reverence of me? Because people told them to. They do what people tell them to do, not because they recognize what it means to be in a relationship with me. So that's very important, right? So based on that, I'm going to end here. And based on that, next time, we're going to look at the halachot. And we're going to look at the Talmud. Let me see, maybe I'll show you a bit of the Talmud. Let me see. No, okay, I'm going to leave it for now. I'm going to leave it for you for now. And we'll pick up next time, Be'ezrat Hashem, with Harambam and the Gemara and the Mishnah. Yeah, what are the halachot that the Hachamim established based on what it is that I shared with you on Tefilah tonight? So I hope it's okay that it's parts, right? That we're doing this in parts, and people will be able to listen who aren't able to log on. And so I imagine you're recording. But tonight is what is Tefilah? Yeah, and so I hope that has helped to explain a bit. So if anybody has any questions on this, I'm happy to be able to answer before I go.
Hello, I would like to ask a question.
Yes.
Hi, sorry. I have a question, a technical question. Why did it matter to Adam so much that he would apologize?
That's my Siri on my computer for whatever reason.
Sorry, carry on.
So the question is, why
Sorry,
did it matter? What?
Sorry, I wasn't hearing you. For some reason, my computer shut the volume. If you can ask one more time, I apologize. Yeah.
No, of course. Why did it matter to Adam for it to rain? Like, if he wasn't cursed to work on the land yet, why did it matter? Like, why did he worry about the world system not working without the rain? I mean, he was just created, and then did he saw that nothing was growing? Did he had some sort of acknowledge that something was supposed to be growing, and it was going to be his job? Like, I don't get that specific.
That's a very good question. It's a good question. So it's important to recognize, right? By the way, let me see. I don't. Do you follow the Habura? You have follow the Oh, but I don't. I didn't record that. Okay, lo chashuv. Let me explain to you this way. Sefer Bereshit is not a linear story, meaning it's not telling you first this, then this, then this, then this, then this. It's a story that is being told in layers, right? Because think about it. The end of the first, here, I'll show it to you so you can see it, right? So you see what I mean. I'm going to open up for you and then I'll share the screen. 1 second. Okay, let me share the screen and I'll show you. This is the first chapter, right? The first perek of Bereshit. Bereshit bara Elohim tashamayim ta'aretz, yeah? And it goes on and says, Vayomer Elohim, Vayas Elohim, Vaikra Elohim, talks about all of the Bria, correct? Now notice over here, by the way, what does it say? Vatotzeh ha'aretz deshe, Aise mazriya zera minehu. Ve'aretz ose peri asher zaro bo leminehu vayar Elohim kitov. What does that mean? This is the first story. It says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said everything should grow from the earth. Did everything grow? Yeah, it says. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Tacheh aretz deshe, and it says, Vatotzeh aretz deshe. So, first of all, that occurs. When does that happen? Third day. So, what does it mean that nothing's growing? What does it mean that there was no Adam? It was growing perfectly fine over here with no Adam. Correct? And then what does it tell me at the very end of the story? It tells me something very clear. It says, and the heavens and the earth were complete. Chulu means kol, like the word kol in Hebrew. Kol is everything. Everything was finished. And on the seventh day, he completed. Again, kol, right? Like it says in Tehillim, Kollu tehilot David ben Yishai, right? They're complete, they're done. Okay? All done. All is finished. Shouldn't that be the end of the story? But then it starts again. Interestingly. This is the story of the heavens and the earth when they were created. On the day that God made the earth and the heavens. Why is it telling me the story again? I just heard it. And then strangely, you know what it tells me? Nothing was growing. There was no human to work the earth. Why am I showing this to you? Because it's very important to recognize that the whole story of Bereshit, the whole parasha of Bereshit, it's not a linear story. It's not first this, then this, then this, then this. It's giving things in different layers and different perspectives. That's the first thing that you need to know. So the question that you're asking is assuming linear story. Yeah? You with me? You're assuming that Adam was first or Adam didn't come and then the thing grew. That's not how it works. It's presenting you conceptual ideas. What are the conceptual ideas? That's the hard work. You have to figure that out. That's part of what Maaseh Bereshit is. Yeah? But I'm simply going to respond to you now saying, don't look at the story of Bereshit as though it is a linear story. It is not a linear story. It is a layered story. And what that's talking about is not in Gan Eden. It's not talking about that first level. It's talking about a different level. It's talking about outside the garden, after Adam HaRishon leaves, and a different history and a different future. It's very complex, Maaseh Bereshit. So I'm only going to answer that for you now, but at least you can recognize that the question might be not a problem if I understand that it's not a linear story and rather it's a layered story that is looking at things from different perspectives. Yeah?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And I have another just question. It's are you going to talk about korbanot in the next class? I
will show simply that the korbanot, that the Hachamim established the Tefilah in relationship to the korbanot, right? But if there's anything specific that you want about the korbanot, then I'm happy to ask, but we're not going to look at the korbanot specifically themselves.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to ask how does the korbanot give the people mindfulness and conscious of God? If it was replaced with us davening, was it the same thing or is it a different subject?
It's a bit of a different subject only because we're going to be focusing on Tefilah specifically. So I can't explain how, I won't be able to have the time to explain properly how the korbanot run that way. But I have a shiur on the korbanot that may help for you. So I can send a link, to whoever is if you want, send a link to it. But it requires a better treatment. I won't do it. I'm not going to be able to do it in the shiur itself. It has to do with the fact that we are predators. You know what predators are, right? That we are animals. We are animals that race after or find and hunt after prey. Yeah, that's what we are, right? We used to be hunters and gatherers, and we go and hunt buffalo and kill them and so on and so forth. So it's a very deep part of who we are. So the korbanot deal with that aspect of us and how it is that we relate to the animals around us, to the animal that is us, and how we relate that to Kadosh Baruch Hu.
So
In
just
very, very brief terms.
right,
Yeah.
but just to finish, so it doesn't really connect with Tefilah, korbanot.
Not directly, not one-to-one.
Not
The one-to-one, but it is avodah. So there is a relationship, there is a connection,
Okay.
right? But it's a bit different. It's a bit different.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the relationship between the meditation and the being grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and him like giving us what we want? What's the...
It's a very, very, very good question. And I'm thinking that I'm going to do it next week, but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you to consider this, right? Okay. Consider if you ever had someone like maybe an artist of sorts, an author of sorts, that you really, really admire. Yeah. So like for me, it would be Harambam. Yeah. I love Harambam. I've read as much as I can from Harambam. I keep reading him. And I love him. And you know what I wish I could do? I wish that I could say to him, meet him and tell him how much he has changed my life. Yeah. Like there's a natural human desire to do it. That's why we have crazy fans, these lunatic fans that they can't talk to the people that they go crazy for. They just go crazy, right? It's a very strong human thing. But if I was able to meet him, which is what we're doing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Tefilah, right? We're saying, we're telling him because we recognize his world and we want to tell him, right? That's opening. The asking for what we need is, again, it's going to Rambam, so to speak, and saying, Rabbeinu, I hope I can ask you, there's this line in the Mishneh Torah that for 800 years, Chachamim have argued about what it means over and over and over. Can I ask you, please, it would mean so much to us. Can you please explain a few lines on what that was? That's normal. That's the next normal thing to do, right? So once I'm speaking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I say to him, Ribbono shel Olam. It would mean so much for me if I could have better clarity in my mind. I'm having trouble understanding things, and I want to learn. Please get. That's what the rest of the dialogue is. It's now that I'm standing and I'm in front of him. I'm saying to him what would mean so much in terms of my relationship with him, and he waits for that. That's what he wishes for, right? Okay. I unfortunately am going to have to end. But if there's any other questions between now and then, you can send them to me. I'll try to answer them either at the beginning of next year. I'll write. But it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I look forward to next week. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a lovely day.
Great cheer. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.